Transformation is going beyond the stories we tell ourselves. Everyone that I know wants to transform into a different version of themselves. Whether it's changing your mind, your body, or your spirit life, or maybe you're just looking to change your financial situation. Let's face it, who isn't? If you're getting out of a bad relationship and you feel like you got hit by an emotional truck and you're looking to get out of that horrible feeling, then all these situations require personal transformation. But before we can transform into this new version of ourselves, we must heal. I believe that we are an accumulation of the stories that we tell ourselves. Most of those stories are negative because our archaic brains are there to protect us. And so that limbic brain, that emotional brain that saved you thousands of years ago in the wild, right, from animals in the savannah, is the same brain that is there protecting you today in urban New York City, for example. And so healing must happen before true transformation takes place in our hearts. I believe it's not a physical challenge that you have. I believe it's a heart issue. Now, when I say heart, I'm not meaning literally like you have a heart condition, but instead your heart dispositions. I want to tell you a story that illustrates how we feed these thoughts into our system, how it affects our heart, our actions, our habits, and our character. So there was a Cherokee who was teaching his grandson about life. And he said, a fight is going on inside of our brain. And he said to the boy, there's this terrible fight and it's between two wolves. He said, one is evil. He's anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment. He lies, there's falsehood, pride. He feels superior. There's ego involved. And he continued. The other is, he said, it's good. He's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, self-control, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, faith. He said the same fight is going on inside you and inside every other person too. The grandson then thought about it for a little bit and he said, grandfather, which wolf will win? The Cherokee simply replied and said, the one you feed. Heart transformation requires that we have three basic but very powerful things in place. Number one, we must tell ourselves more efficient stories about our past, right? It's just simply reframing negative stories and finding a lesson, finding something of growth that can actually help us reframe that old story. Maybe it was a negative story, but it's how you interpret that story that really impacts your actions. So we must change our stories to more efficient stories. Number two, this is probably one of the hardest ones. We must forgive and forget. You've heard of the saying, I forgive, but I don't forget. No, it's required that we forgive and we forget. Those that have harmed us in order for us to truly, truly heal. Otherwise, our energy is kind of trapped, right, in a very catabolic way, in a very negative way. Number three, we must do more of and what we want to do in order to shift our behavior. You see, I've spent 2 decades helping people transform their bodies, lose weight, decrease body fat percentages, look and feel amazing. But those very superficial changes have brought about other more important intrinsic changes that I've seen in people. For example, their heart disposition changes with their physical change. And they start to feed their mind in a more productive way. They start to have more productive thoughts. I often talk to my members inside of my program, and I always say that behavior shifts identity, right? Most people want to transform, while what we really should be doing is shifting, right? We should be shifting our identity. The way we do that is through our daily actions, our behaviors. I believe that pain, whether physical or mental, is felt in the body, right? I don't care how spiritual you are. If you have something going on, whether it's in your mind or your body, you feel pain and you feel it in your body. That pain must be released in order to have better thoughts. The fastest way that I know to do this is by activating your physiology and training your hunger cues. Now, depending on who you're talking to, they're gonna tell you that there's a different solution. I'm just simply speaking to you from my realm, my experience, the things that I've experienced, the things that I've seen through thousands of testimonies of people that have come through our programs. And so here are some ways that you can start transformation process in a very simple way, okay? This is not a mind-shattering idea. I'm not gonna give you a hack that you've never heard of. I'm actually gonna give you very simple things because I think it's in those simple things that power truly lies. So number one, this is one of my favorite hacks and it's one of the easiest hacks, and yet one of the ones that I get the most resistance on because it's so easy and we have this mindset, most of us humans, that in order to get results, we have to do things harder. But I'm here to teach you how to do things smarter, hopefully, right? And so number one, you have to power walk. Power walk simply says that you are walking at a pace where you're not out of breath. okay? And you wanna do this 3 days a week for 45 minutes, right? You're just keeping a nice pace where you can hold a conversation and do it for 45 minutes at a minimum of 3 days a week, okay? This is gonna do miraculous things in your body because you will intentionally breathe from your diaphragm. It will activate all the cognitive processes, right? All those chemicals like dopamine, epinephrine, serotonin, all those happy chemicals, right? All those chemicals that are associated with well-being. Number 2, you wanna focus on breathing while you're walking, right? I know that sounds crazy. It's like, well, I gotta breathe anyway, right? I'm not talking about the shallow breathing that we usually do, right? Where we're just kind of hyperventilating all day and then we wonder why we're lightheaded, we don't feel good, we have headaches, we don't sleep well, we have bad digestion. It's because most people are shallow breathers. So we need to focus on our breathing. So what does that look like, right? I want you to use common sense with this, okay? And what I mean by that is when I give a systematic approach, people go right into it even if they don't feel good. If you start to feel lightheaded, then slow down. Here's the idea with breathing, right? So the idea with breathing is basically you're taking 3 inhales and you're doing it at a systematic pace. It looks like this. And you're exhaling 3. And you're doing that for 45 minutes while you are walking. I know it sounds silly, I know it sounds simple, but please hear me out. Once again, power is in simplicity, and that's what I'm here to show you, okay? Number 3, push your breakfast out 1 or 2 hours from the usual time when you have breakfast, your breakfast start time. So maybe you usually eat breakfast at 8, push it out till 10. Why? Because you're training your hunger cues, right? Instead of constantly spiking insulin, instead of constantly, taking orders from your body every time it tells you you're hungry, right? You're learning to really take your time and let your subtracts, the calories from the day before, start to be partitioned as fat in your body. Not only that, but it teaches you patience. It teaches you delayed gratification. And so we just push things out a little bit more, and you're gonna notice that as you do that more and more, you're gonna start controlling your hunger cues. Okay, and so the idea here is that this starts to produce more efficient thoughts every day. Right? I always say this in every single one of my videos. We think, we feel, and we act. Everything starts from there. And so the idea really is that when you start consuming the right nutrients, when you activate your physiology, you start having different thoughts. You start having different thoughts, empowering thoughts. You have different feelings, right? And powerful feelings that allow you to actually take action in a very powerful way. Number 5, take personal inventory of all the false belief systems that keep you stuck. We all have those, right? The problem is that if you think you figured them all out, you most likely haven't taken inventory. You have to really sit and look at every single area of your life. Like, what do I think about relationships? What do I think about marriage? What do I think about business? What do I think about money? What do I think about my relationship to God? Does God exist or doesn't he exist? Like all these things that you hold as truths, question them, right? Over and over and over again. Even if you've done it before, take inventory of them and see if your current belief systems are helping you live a better life. And if they're not, then you have a choice to do better, right? So we reframe them with more productive thoughts. Number 6, you want to sleep 6 to 8 hours, ideally 8 hours, right? Minimum of 6, ideally 8. Why is sleep so important? It is the most underestimated health hack out there, okay? Even if you're eating well and you're exercising every day, but you're not getting sufficient sleep, your body's stressed out. And if your body's stressed out, you're not gonna produce the results that you wanna produce. You're not gonna perform the way you can perform. You're not gonna have the mental acuity, the creativity, the motivation to do all the things that you can do. So get to bed early and get up before the sun comes out so that you can actually prep for the day, mentally, physically, emotionally, in all the areas. Get 7 to 8 hours of sleep and you're gonna see your life radically change. Number 7, be careful with your environments. What do I mean by this? In addiction language, we talk a lot about people, places, and things, okay? Super important. What do I mean by people? People that come around you, right, and actually feed you the wrong information. What does that mean? That means that these are people that you come around. Every time you come around them, they have negative things to say, they have gossip, they waste time, they're idle, they sit around doing nothing, expecting for a lot to happen in their lives. And because you're coming around these people, you are feeding off of them because we are communal learners. We learn from each other. So, and I'm sure you've heard of the saying that you're an accumulation of the 5 people that you hang out with the most, right? And that's true, that could be good or bad. If you're the smartest person in the room, then maybe you need to upgrade your group. I also say this very harsh saying, but I think it's true. If you want to soar like an eagle, you can't hang out with scavengers. So you need to make sure that you're sitting around being with people that are actually empowering you and feeding you the right ideas. When I talk about places, there are certain places that when you go there, right, you're immediately triggered and tempted to drink, eat, and do all the wrong things. You know those places. So clarity is potential power. If you know that those places are tempting you, don't go there. And then things simply talks about crutches or idols that you have in your life. For some people, that's cigarettes, drugs, it could be pornography, it could be even religion, right? Whatever crutch, right, you're hanging on to, right? You're basically hugging that thing and it's alleviating your pangs. What that's actually doing for you is it's actually putting you to sleep instead of you letting go of the crutches, facing the music, right? Because oftentimes, and I know this personally because I battled with substance abuse, when I was drinking and when I was doing drugs, all I was doing was numbing my pain. When I should have been asking myself the question, what's the pain that I'm feeling? Where is that coming from? Right? Why is that happening and how do I heal that versus just numbing it, right? But that's all I knew how to do at the time. And it wasn't until someone pointed out, hey, I think you have a problem, that I got really upset and I finally started to do something about it. Because a fish doesn't know he's in water. I didn't know I was addicted. I didn't know I had crutches. Someone had to point that out. And so once you figure out what those crutches are, you need to confront those crutches just like you need to confront your false belief systems. Number 8, feed your mind great stuff. Read the Bible, right? I know it's one of the most controversial books, but one of the best-selling books in the world. Every single communist country has tried to get rid of the Bible because it understands the power that it has over people. And since communist governments want to take control of their people, the first thing they do is they strip the Bible. Here's one of the reasons why I believe the Bible is one of the best books you can read. There's 3 things that are important. And one is that it is a book that if you read it, right, you can actually see if what you're reading consistently is actually bringing fruit in your life, right? If those passages that you're reading, if those parables that you're reading are actually leading you to be a better parent, a better husband, a better person, a better business owner, a better employee, you have a life that shows fruit, then what you're reading is a good thing, right? And that's very much what has happened to me with the Bible. The other side of it is that oftentimes people say, well, those are just stories. But then we have to look at those stories. Those stories talk about Jesus. And then we have to ask the question, was Jesus just this, a figure that someone made up in their imagination, or was he a historical figure? Well, we know from historical books that Jesus was a historical figure. So we know that the person that we're hearing about, it was actually a historical figure. The other cool thing about it is that from Old Testament to New Testament, it all correlates, right? There's hundreds and thousands of years in between, and yet they all correlate. Everything, every single one of the prophecies from Old to New Testament correlates. It's pretty amazing. So the Bible is a great book and the best book. And like I always say, it's light to your feet. It shows you how to live in a more productive way. It also shows you the character of God. And so I've spent a lot of time here explaining why I believe the Bible is probably the thing that's, not probably, but the thing that's going to transform the way you think, feel, and act, okay? Listen to great inspirational podcasts, right? There's so many podcasts out there that are just constantly feeding your mind with good things. Stay away from the idle things, the gossip, all those things. And so podcasts, books, right? Books that are not just fluffy books, meaning that they have all these theories that are up here in the air, but actually strategic books, such as Atomic Habits, which is one of my favorite books by James Clear. There's another great book that says 10x is better than 2x, right? And it's an amazing book. It's a brand new book. Check it out. It's a very strategic book, and it shows you how to, instead of going 2x, you can go 10x. It takes the same effort, but you get tenfold the results. So check out books like that inspire you, that actually help you move forward. Podcasts that are empowering. Super important, because the Bible says that faith comes through hearing, and it comes through hearing the word of God, but it also says that when you're actually constantly hearing things, it has an effect on how you think. And since everything stems from the way we think, then I think it's an important place to start. Then please subscribe to this channel, because that's what we do here. We are not here to diet. We're here to transform your life. I want to do it right beside you as your coach. And maybe one day we'll come across and I'll be able to help you on your journey to transform your mind, your body, and your spirit. My name is JT Tapias with the Empty Your Bucket Nutrition Plan. I'll talk to you guys next time. Ciao, ciao.